sana Bwana Jimi Wanjigi. This is the Public Debt and Privatisation Committee, and we want to appreciate the fact that you decided to come and share your knowledge, your experience with us today. So before we hand over the floor to you, we'll take this opportunity to introduce some of our members who are members of this committee and the Secretariat, and then I will want you to introduce your team, and then from there we'll be able to hand over the floor to you to hear what you say about these proposed amendments to the Public Finance Management Act. So with that, then, honourable members, I request that we introduce ourselves from my right.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Dr. Daniel Manduku, member for Meribari Masaba, member of this committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Kwenya Thuku, member of Parliament for Kinangop.
Maklab Joseph is my name, member of Parliament, Baringo North.
Good afternoon, Shagan Juguna, Kandara MP, committee member.
Good afternoon, I'm Abdishuri, member of Parliament, Balambala, chair of the committee.
Okay, Secretariat, please.
Go-to Legal Counsel. Freedom Gary, Media Relations Officer.
Sapan Kiror, Fiscal Analyst.
Notation Jim, Audio Officer.
Job Galabai, Fiscal Analyst and Clerk Assistant.
Sydney Lukaga, Legal Counsel. Judge Baluka, Office Assistant.
Chacha Machake, Fiscal Analyst and Clerk.
Okay, let me ask Dr. Kasa to introduce herself.
I'm Irene Kasalu, member Kitui County and member of this committee.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Makali Mulu, member of Parliament Kitui Central, vice chair of this committee. I will be chairing this session. So you are most welcome. You can now hand over to you to introduce your team, and then we'll guide you now to proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Sorry. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Distinguished members of Parliament, let me say on my part and that of my small team here, it is indeed a big, big honor to be here before you. Let me introduce from my immediate left. His name is Bwana Osiamu. He is a lawyer and he's accompanied me so that we have proper interpretation of some of the things I intend to put forward. And on my right is Willis Otieno. In the last election, he was my running mate. He has, before we got stopped, and he's a very, very well-versed lawyer. Has been part of the election machinery and for a very long time. It's my honor to introduce Willis Otieno. We had one other member, I don't know where he's gone. He stepped out. I'll introduce him when he comes back. There was a gentleman called Mr. Muchere who had done our investigative report. I think I don't know whether he's been before this committee before. Yes. He got delayed at a function. We thought we'd just come ahead because we got the time yesterday. So we'll be presenting. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Jimi Wanjigi, with your team. I'm sure you are aware this is not a very old committee like the rest of the committees of Parliament. This committee was actually established in 2020, this is the 13th Parliament. That is 2022, so it's a new committee. And the reason why it was established is just to address issues relating to public debt and privatization. Because public debt has become an issue in this country. It's an issue of public concern. And so this committee purely looks at issues, public debt and privatization. We've taken a lot of time to understand issues of debt in this country as a committee. And I think it has been a great opportunity for us to appreciate more what is happening in matters of public debt. So today, why we're here basically is the issue of the proposed amendments of the Public Management Act. which has been pushed to Parliament by Treasury. I'm sure you have looked at them. So we did put in the papers a call for public participation so that those who want to make their input into this can actually write to Parliament. And we are very happy that you managed to put your proposal, and want to appreciate, because this is what we really want to happen in this country, so that when matters of public interest are before us, the public do participate, and more so when we see you here with your running mate. At that level, I'm sure you carry a big jug of your followers behind you. So we look forward to hear you and hear what your followers are saying, and then we'll be able to interact. So I just want to hand over the forum now to you, so that the floor to you, so that now you can make your comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Now, I seek your indulgence because what I'm going to present is before you, I hope, and is quite voluminous, because the issue we are discussing today is an amendment. But as you rightfully said, you're a new committee, and some of us have done some exhaustive forensic investigation into our debt, especially over the last 10 years. And I would appreciate your indulgence so that we go through it. I hope you're not too tired this afternoon. I may take a little more time than maybe some of the other people who've been there, but I believe what we're presenting is very qualitative. Every single slide that we intend to put up on the screen has a qualitative nature that is a foundation of our public debt. We want to anchor first and foremost on the law. Where is our public debt anchored? And I say this because you are seeking an amendment to this law. So I think in terms of context, I would seek your indulgence so that we anchor that well, and then go through what we have discovered is the situation to date.
Thank you very much. As I said earlier, our focus is more on the amendments, so we can agree, my colleagues are in agreement, that we first of all focus on your comments on the amendments, and then you can allow your other additional minutes to now bring the broader perspective of public debt. The other option is you take about 10 minutes to just put into context your presentation. But at the end of the day, we want to hear what you say about the amendments, because that's what will be in our report. And just to inform you that the gentleman you mentioned did appear in our committee. It actually took about 40 minutes to present his forensic investigation report. We did raise issues with that report at that time. So unless now we have new developments, and if you present the same report, it may not make a lot of sense to take a lot of time, because most of these members did listen to him and we did ask him quite a number of questions. With that now, I think we can begin. Unless my colleagues, you have a different opinion. But perhaps you want to say something? Please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think what he needs to come up first with is the issue of the amendment. Then all of us are interested, and Kenyans are interested to know this in-depth analysis of our public debt. And I will be very grateful, Chairman, if we can give him some substantial time so that it is also an educative forum, and it will inform this committee going forward on things that needs to be done so that we can fix our public debt in the country.
Thank you. It seems like we're in agreement. So with that now, we can structure your presentation the way you want. Thank you.
Bwana Chairman, thank you very much. Because we are talking about an amendment, I think, if you don't mind, if I go into where the law is on public debt. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, in our Constitution, Article 214 is very clear about our public debt. It is further anchored in 2201. Bwana Chairman, waheshimiwa. Now, why I'm so keen on anchoring the Constitution and what the Public Finance Management Act is that this is where I believe the Constitution makers anchored even our debt sustainability. Our debt sustainability. Now,
Chair, with all due respect, I want to just go back to kindly, Jimmy, if you're able to go back to the first slide. This is a forensic investigation. We would want from the onset, because it's good to make full disclosure, how this forensic investigation was done and by who, so that we can give credibility to the presentation that you're just about to do. In fact, it will be efforts in futility for us to just follow through. And the audit of standing orders is that Parliament does not act in vain, and therefore we must be guided by full disclosure that this is a forensic investigation done by so-and-so during this period, commissioned by so-and-so, from which coffers it was paid from, and then we'll be able to, that is the standard for your information for starters, because Parliament cannot act in vain. We seated here on taxpayers' money, unlike you, my brother Jimmy. We must be accountable and be seen to be accountable, and to be seen to be accommodative of everybody. If this finding has the class and the respect and the acceptability in terms of our standing orders, then we'll give you all the time. That's my position, Chairman.
Chair, when we ask people to come for public participation, we don't ask them to undress and do, so let the person we have given him the time to say what he wants to say. We will take what we'll take out of it. If we find it not to be credible, we will disregard
Chair,
it.
this is a house of traditions. This is a house of record.
Chairman, point of order, Chairman.
Okay, let me provide direction. Chairman, honorable members, let me provide direction, please. Honorable members, you realize that there is a house of records. So what you are going to say here is going to be on record, permanent record. So what we say is, whatever you say, please, in terms of credibility, is important that at the right time, if you ask that question, then you can say the source of the information. It must be a critical source of information. But with that, you are free to continue the presentation.
Chair and members of the committee, we are very serious people. And we want to assure you that one of the presentations and one of the things we are going to state is exactly the background of this, but I didn't want to give too much time. I'll tell you, in preparation for my presidential race last year, we knew that the biggest outflow of money from the exchequer is debt payments. So we bothered to do a forensic audit, and we commissioned Juan Muchero with two other gentlemen. And they looked at all the appropriations, because fortunately, these things are published for the public. They looked at all the appropriations bills over the last 10 years, up to March 2022. And on top of that, they looked at the central bank accounts, which are also publicly available for anybody to double check. They are on our screens. It is public information. And they put the numbers together. It's very simply that. And then we had a legal team that looked at the law, which is what I'm about to address you on. Now, if that is not good enough, I don't know what is. Because if there's a figure there that does not tie with any appropriation, I would like to be challenged by any member of this committee.
Okay, honorable members, let me just joke your mind. If you remember, and it is important to remind you, because I'm sure we are all there, when Mr. Muchero presented to us, we realized there were serious information gaps. And where the problem was, he looked at the Appropriation Act, and he forgot that the CFS expenditures are not appropriated by Parliament. So with that gap, actually this presentation became like, their courage was very weak. But so that that's why I said, if it's Muchero's presentation, we are likely just to get to the same conclusions. But if these other two guys added some meat to it, we are okay. So you can go on and present.
Thank you very much. Now, as I said, the article that anchors our debt is 2142 of our Constitution, which is very clear. Go to slide 2, please. 214, which says that all financial obligations attendant to loans raised or guaranteed and securities issued or guaranteed by the national government, that they are anchored as public debt. The budget is provided in Article 2201 of the Constitution, which states that the budget of the national government shall contain all estimates of expenditure, differentiating between recurrent and development, B, proposals for financing anticipated deficits, and C, proposals regarding borrowing and other public liabilities that will increase public debt in the following year. Then you come to PFM. The PFM is also very clear. PFM says in 15.2 that over the medium term, the national government borrowings shall be used only for financing development expenditure and not for recurrent. And section 53 of PFM says the national government may borrow money only for the budget as approved by Parliament and the allocations of loans approved by Parliament. Very clear. Very, very clear. Now, what we did is that we audited the forensic over the last, the appropriations development, because as is clear here, debt can only be anchored in the appropriations development. There's no other avenue that Parliament anchors the debt of this nation. It is only for development, and it is the appropriations bill development. So we went through the entire figures from 2013 to date. And we came up with the chart you are now seeing as, no, I think go to the next. Next. Yes. The appropriations as was done over the last, from 2014 to, as we said, March last year. The appropriations, as you can see in column 2, are the years, very clearly. First term of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and the second term. Approved development expenditure by estimates was done a total of 2.6 trillion in the first term, and as you can see in the bottom, a total of 2.6 again in the second term. Amount financed by tax was 1.7 and 1.6 in the second term. In the last column, we have the amount financed by debt, what Parliament approved as debt to be taken. That amount is 969 billion in the first term and 1 trillion in the second term. In other words, that Parliament authorized a total debt of 2 trillion over the 2 terms of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta in the appropriations.
Chair, sorry, I just want to get a clarification. I want him to confirm that these amounts are captured. For example, let's take 2021-2022, 668. I want him to confirm that does that amount include, one, what we call the CFS expenditures? Does it include the allocation to the counties? Does it include the recurrent expenditure? Or it only captures the development expenditure? Because I think that is a major point of departure.
And maybe before Jim, you answer to that, I want your legal team to take the Constitution and go to 221, Article 221. I want the lawyers to help us. If you go to Article 221, 7, 7, and that's why we have a problem with the presentation. It says the appropriation bill mentioned in clause 6 shall not include expenditures that are charged on the consolidated fund by this constitution and an act of parliament. If you look at the CFS expenditures, the first charge is debt repayment, as you said earlier, which means when you look at the Appropriation Act, you are not likely to find debt repayment in that act. So maybe your lawyers can now help us, because if that is the position, then it means from the word go, this presentation is grounded on the wrong propositions.
Bwana Chairman, the appropriations bill recurrent charges debt payments. All debt payments are in the appropriations recurrent. So which appropriations bill are you talking about?
This is the law.
Because 7 says, shall not be.
I think to cure that, Mr. Wanjigi.
You see, here it says, to read 7 again, the appropriations bill mentioned in clause 6, which is national government expenditure, all these things, whatever, withdraw from the CFS, shall not include expenditures that are charged on the CF by this Constitutional Act of Parliament. Now, the appropriations bill recurrent charges all of that. It charges all of it. All the payments of debt are in recurrent appropriations bill.
Chair, without
No, but they are in appropriations recurrent bill.
without sounding too mathematical, let us take the figure of 668.
Yes.
Now, out of that figure, tell us how much money was transferred to the counties, because it is inclusive.
Yes.
Tell us how much of that money was used to repay debt.
Yes.
Tell us how much of that money was used to repay pensions.
Now,
And
you're
tell
talking
us-
about recurrent expenditure. When you talk about recurrent, there are two bills that come to Parliament. There's the Appropriations Bill Development and Appropriations Bill Recurrent. Two bills. The one that is over there is the Appropriations Bill Development, where debt is charged. The Appropriations Bill Recurrent has got all that expenditure. All counties, all debt, any CFS is in appropriations recurrent. It's a recurrent expenditure. We are paying for it. It is there. So there are two bills, please. Appropriations Bill Development and Appropriations Bill Recurrent. This is development. No, there are two bills. Yes, but there are two sections. Call it two sections. Call it two sections. What I have put up there are Appropriations Bill Development, where debt is supposed to be charged according to the Constitution, because debt only goes for development. It does not go for recurrent expenditure. So debt is supposed to be charged here. Appropriations Recurrent has got all that expenditure you're talking about. It has CFS, it has counties, it has all external and domestic debt payments are in Appropriations Recurrent.
I don't know. You know, we don't want to appear like we don't want to listen to you. We really want to listen to you. The only challenge is your presentation might not add value to this debate. You know why? Let's go to 6. Instead of 7, let's go to 6. We start there. 6 says, when the estimates of national government expenditure and the estimates of expenditure for the judiciary and parliament have been approved by National Assembly. Now, we approved that by what we did last week. You saw that what we call the report of the committee and the committee of supplies. That's how we approve. Now, after we approve that, this week now we'll be having the appropriation bill coming. Now, it says, they shall be included in the appropriation bill, which shall be introduced into the National Assembly to authorize the withdrawal from the consolidated fund of the money needed for the expenditure and for appropriation of that money for the purposes mentioned in the bill. Now, if you go to 7, because it's a continuous, it says, now this bill, which has been mentioned under 6, It says the bill mentioned under 6 shall not include expenditures that are charged on the consolidated fund by constitution or an act of parliament. Now, if you, the same constitution, you go to the consolidated fund charges, you find there pension payments, debt payment, and salaries for independent commissions. Those 3. The 4th item is payment for international bodies where we are members. Now, those 4, don't find them in the Appropriation Act. And that's why we told this honorable member called Mr. Muchero, we know he's a former employee of Treasury. That's why we told him he has a very good presentation, very good figures, but the grounding for those figures is wrong.
I wish, this is a very good banter, because I think this is an education process. No, we actually don't, maybe he was unclear in the way he explained himself. You see, our analysis was on development appropriations and recurrent appropriations. Wanachair, I want to assure you, I wish we had brought the documents here. In recurrent appropriations, all debt payments are there. External debt payments, what is in CFS? External debt payments are there. Domestic debt payments are there. They even listed and scheduled. They are all there. So I think this is an education for all of us, because I can assure you they are there.
Chairman, yes, I find it becoming a learning process and a counter-argument. If we could allow Wanjigi to go through very fast and then now relate what you are talking about to the amendment of the PMM Act in relation to public debt, so that we can expense this matter once and for all, rather than...
Okay, honorable members, let's allow Wanjigi now to present uninterrupted.
He can be heard uninterrupted. Let it be heard uninterrupted.
Honorable members, I beg you, can I allow him to present uninterrupted? Then we, please now, you have the...
Thank you, Chair. What you are seeing up there are the appropriations bill development. Whereas I've said, according to the law, all debt is to be taken in the medium term for development. So if there's any debt that has been approved for development, it would appear there very clearly. And the Public Finance Management Act, remember, also says that you can only take money in the short term for cash flow problems, and that short term is viewed as 1 year. So please, if there was any debt to be incurred for any project, it will be right here. And these figures are directly from the appropriations bill development. So over the last 9 years, because when we did this it was 9 years, 2 trillion shillings had been approved by the Honorable House, the August House, for development. Now, in contrast that, we found, go to the next slide. Now, this is now data from the Exchequer account at CBK, which clearly tells us our debt ratio. Now, what we are seeing is that on the first column, the second column, you see the years, then you have the second column. We have public debt as per CBK data. 2.6 in the first term and 3.4 in the second term. A total of 6.1 taken over 9 years. We have the appropriations development, which is clear about the amount approved by Parliament for development. After all, that's how you develop a line item for expenditure for a particular project. It is through the appropriations development. 2 trillion. So we found a variance between what CBK was showing and what Parliament had done. And that variance was to the tune of 4 trillion shillings. 4 trillion shillings. Now, if debt is to be anchored in development, we did not understand where that 4 trillion above what was passed by Parliament meant. Because it meant meant that it did not go for any project that Parliament approved. There was no way there was a line item. No way. Next slide. Yes. Now, in the same CBK figures, it showed that they had accumulated a domestic debt over the 2 terms of 2.9 trillion. Again, domestic debt, if you look at the appropriations, development does not exist anywhere in the borrowings, in any of the schedules, and we looked through it with a fine-tooth comb. Domestic debt does not fund any single project of government. Never has, and it does not. So that debt, we said, had not been authorized by Parliament for any development. And over the years, it had accumulated, at least up to March last year, to 2.9 trillion. Next slide. I think we've exhausted that. Next one. Now, is the CBK data accurate? Now, what we found is the appropriations recurrent. Appropriations recurrent. Okay, just go back. Just go back. It's okay. Next. That one. No, next. Next. Yes. No, next. Forward. 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 Yes. Yes. Now, what we found is that in the appropriations recurrent that we were talking about earlier, the second column there after the years, payments of debt are recorded. They're all recorded and approved by Parliament. And the debt approved for payment from our taxes was 5.6 trillion. That is what has been paid as of March last year. We said against that, take a debt, even if we say it was unauthorized of 6.1, you had a negative 4.7. Now you add what we found was the carryover debt of Mwai Kibaki, it was 2.3. We felt that even if you say the 4 trillion was authorized somewhere, and we don't believe it was authorized anywhere, you still have, and you only have a negative balance of 2.8 trillion. Not the figure we were seeing, next slide, in the central bank account of 8.4. Now, our assertion, let's be very clear, Parliament only approved 2 trillion, 6 trillion was taken, 5.6 trillion was paid. Our assertion is that even if you include Mwai Kibaki's debt, there should be a credit balance in our account of 1.2 trillion. That is our assertion. That if you take the debt that was approved by Parliament, you take the carryover debt from Mwai Kibaki, you take what has been approved by the House in recurrent appropriations as payment of debt, the total we have in our account is actually a credit balance of 1.2 trillion. That is what we are saying is lawful. We do not owe any money to anybody. That is our position. Let's go to the next slide. I think that's a good summary there, right? Repayment of principals, repayment of interest. You can see the total debt that we have paid in appropriations recurrent bill. It is there. That is the total we have paid. But what we are finding in central bank at the time was that the debit balance of 8.4 trillion was a static figure. We were never seeing any figure coming down. Our debt payments were not being shown as coming down. So you have an account that is accumulating debt, and it accumulated to the extent of 8.4 trillion, but we were not seeing any figure where the credit was being taken, was being credited. And we had paid 5.6 over the last 9 years. Next slide. I think we've been through the law. Next. 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 Now, part 2. I think if we start with part 1, because I've just gone through it very quickly, I hope we are, if there's any questions I would like to take before we go to the next.
Let's proceed to the amendment.
Now, we are talking about debt sustainability. Debt sustainability. So where we are coming from, remember, we are saying the law has only approved 2 trillion, but a total of 6 were taken during the term. So another 4 that was above what should have been taken in law. Now, when we talk about debt sustainability, one of the areas we should look at is our credit rating. There are 2 things: the credit rating we now have, and how much of our revenue is going to pay debt. What is our debt service ratio? I know you've been trying to anchor on debt to GDP, and I think it was a bit of an error. I think it should have been, like we do in our homes, where a bank takes our risk. That risk is on a question of how our capacity to service debt. And normally, for a home or a company, our capacity is viewed as no more than 30% of a debt servicing ratio. In this country, we seem to have reached a level that is at crisis point. That crisis point has been reached because what Parliament was doing and what the Ministry of Finance were doing were at variance. And this is why I'm talking about this amendment being negative. They were doing 2 different things that were happening. What Parliament was doing and approving, and what the Treasury was doing. They are 2 different things. And now, you are in an amendment where you're giving the Treasury carte blanche to come and explain to you after they have done it. They have already been doing it when you didn't give them carte blanche. They were already doing it. Now, that carte blanche is very simply this. Our credit rating has now reached B3, the highest credit score according to Moody's. The higher credit risk, rather, that is where we are, B3, almost at C. So they've assessed our liquidity as of May, mid-May. They gave us a credit rating of B3. We're at the amber color. Next slide. Can you broaden that? Just to give you an analysis, that is our revised estimates for payments 2022-2023 of debt, both domestic and foreign, from the budget. 1.360 trillion shillings. Next slide. Widen it. I want to go to the figure. No, 4, yes. Up. Tax revenue. These are your actual tax revenues. You can see that column. 1.5 trillion as of April this year. I think just go and make sure that mheshimiwa wanaona ni tax revenue, sije wanasema tunawapatia figure ingine. Tax revenue 1.5. Next slide. This is now came out on Friday. That is showing our tax revenue at 1.74 thus far. That is the figure that is used to compare with debt payments as a percentage, as a ratio, as a debt servicing ratio. Now, our estimate is that at the end of June, we have averaged about 150 to 160 trillion per month in collections. So the maximum we envisage that can be collected by the end of this month, which is the end of the financial year, is 1.9 trillion. Go to the next slide. Now, at 1.9 trillion, we are paying 1.360 in debt payments, means that we have reached a debt servicing ratio of 71.63%. That is the biggest expenditure of our revenue. And our assertion is that Parliament did not approve this debt. This was done in the Treasury without your approval. Next slide. This is Ghana. This is a statement, is an excerpt from a statement from the Ghanaian Minister of Finance in December last year, where he was categorical. No, I want to read the whole thing. Debt sustainability analysis demonstrated unequivocally that Ghana's public debt is unsustainable, were his words, unsustainable, and that the government may not be able to fully service its debt down the road if no action is taken. Indeed, debt servicing is now absorbing more than half of the total government revenues and almost 70% of tax revenue, while our total public debt stock, including state-owned enterprises and all, exceeds 100% of our GDP. This is why today we are announcing the debt exchange, which will help in restoring our capacity to service debt. This was his announcement in December for what he called the debt distress exchange. He declared default. Ghana had reached 70%. We are at 71.6 this financial year. Sustainability being the operative word. Sustainability. Next slide. Now, I want to address domestic debt. Domestic debt, as you have seen being taken in bonds and bills, is approved nowhere in the appropriations development, where debt is anchored. Nowhere. It doesn't exist, but it exists as payments in appropriations recurrent. The payments of this debt are there, but not for development. Now, if the law is clear that we can only take in the medium term for development, this domestic debt is anchored nowhere in any development project. Now, I want to explain to you some absurdities, and I'm using this to start. I hope you'll come here again because we have part 3. This is the absurdity of domestic debt. 2014-2015, we took 292 domestic debt. This is including redemptions, including Kila Kitu, refinancing. We took 292, right? And we repaid the same year 287. Higher. You go to the next. 2015-2016, 506, we repaid 347. 2016-2017, 414, we repaid 369. 420 in 2017, we repaid 409. 486 in 2018, we repaid 505. In 2019, we had 558, we repaid 514. In 2020, we took 790, we repaid 709. In 2021-22, we took 877, we repaid 823. Last year, we were estimated, we've not reached there, to take 1 trillion, and our repayments, according to the current appropriations, is 1 trillion. I want to explain the absurdity. So we are taking debt, on the one hand, but look, our taxes have equivalent amount of money to pay the same debt. So 2014-2015, 292, we paid 287. So why were we taking debt? Why were we taking debt? We had the cash. And as I said, it's not anchored in law. It is not in the appropriations development anywhere. It did not go towards any project. So why are we taking this domestic debt? I have the next chart that will show that we had enough revenue. In that, we had revenue for all our recurrent expenditure, according to the taxman. And he also lists there that we had enough. So the issue here is that there was a clear motive. Go back. There was a clear motive. If you see, we took debt from the domestic market of 5.3 trillion. We repaid in the same year, whether it is redemptions, whether it's what, or 4.9. So we had the cash. We didn't have to take new debt. The principal payments were 2.3, and the interest payments were 2.6 trillion. 2.6 trillion. This is our question. If this is what you call debt sustainability, I don't understand it. Because so far, what the Treasury has been doing, outside of the approval of this House, is a scheme that you have not approved. We don't know what this money is going for. It is not going to any project in this country. They have never said they have a shortfall of revenue from KRA, and yet they are paying almost 3 trillion in interest to these banks over 9 years. It is a most frightening figure. Most frightening figure. Now, if you go to the next slide, it shows you categorically, we had the revenue, we had the tax revenue. In 2014, we had 1 trillion, including domestic debt payments that have articulated 200 and something, external debt payments, right? And all our recurrent expenditure. We spent 807. We even had a surplus of 194.
Excuse me, kindly, sir. We borrowed. Are you saying the tax revenues for the statement of what? I want to understand. Kindly bring us.
Let me explain, Mheshimiwa. This particular chart is this tax revenue as per the statement of actual revenue and exchequer issues, right? So these are the tax revenues that have been collected, all right, and posted. So in 2014-2015, we collected 1 trillion. Our total expenditure on the recurrent appropriations, including debt payments, net domestic, in other words, domestic, external, everything, is 807.
So
the other is like a credit. Is a surplus, yes. Is a surplus. This is what we're wondering, what is going on with the Treasury and yourselves. There seems to be a very major disconnect. We have a surplus, and if you see at the bottom, our calculation, and I'm prepared to defend this anywhere, because we went through these appropriations like a fine-tooth comb with a forensic eye. Our surplus over the years is 1.9 trillion. So you tell us what is happening. Every time we are being told we have shortages. I've also articulated that we have paid our debt to the extent of 5.6 and you never see the credit. You don't see it anywhere in Central Bank that we have paid our debt. Yet nobody is complaining that debts have not been paid. So we never hear, but we never see the credit on the books. You never see it. You just see the debt increasing. You don't hear about you don't see anywhere where 5.6 is recorded over the last 9 years as a credit for debt payments. You don't see this surplus recorded anywhere. And have you heard Kenya Revenue say that they have not met their targets? Never. Until this financial year. Next. Why don't you do it? No, with the top. That one now is even more complicated. I don't even want to go there, because now you'll be in another state. I think I'll leave it. I'll leave it. No, I'll leave it. That you have excess tax revenue. You have payments of debt that have never been accounted. You have debts that have been taken that you have not approved for any development. And the leeway the Minister of Finance has got is only for short-term cash flow problems that are within 1 year. And now you want to give them a blanket check to go and do what they want when they've already been doing it, to come back later and explain to you what they want to explain to you. And the problem is only one, that nobody has articulated to you the fine print of what has been happening over the last 10 years. Our constitution is so good, it already anticipated this issue of sustainability. It anticipated it. And they expected the Parliament to be a major watchdog on debt sustainability. We are now at a crisis point. You cannot give the Treasury any more leeway to come back to you and tell you about debt sustainability. They must account properly for what has been happening in the past under this new constitution before you amend anything in PFM. Because I can tell you, an amendment done in 2014 is what cost us this question of debt that you do not find. An amendment to the Constitution done in the year 2014 under the PFM Act. It was the PFM Act, sorry. The PFM Act attempted to amend the Constitution, where it said that monies do not have to be deposited in the consolidated fund. That literally, monies can go to agents. If I get just get that close. That can go as commissions, bank fees, without hitting the consolidated fund. That amendment, contrary to our constitution, is what has landed us in the problem we are, where 70% plus of our revenue is going to debt.
So maybe you start now summarizing so that we allow members also.
Article 206, as I said earlier, is very clear that all monies shall be paid to the consolidated fund or a fund created under an act of parliament, under section A, or maybe number 2, under an act retained state organ which will receive it for purposes of expending these funds. Now, in 2014, the CS at the time amended section 57 of the Act and added three more clauses as I'll state here. A, the Cabinet Secretary shall ensure that the proceeds of any loans raised under this Act are A, paid into the consolidated fund. That is by the Constitution. The Constitution goes on to also add B, paid into any other fund established by the national government or any entity like the fuel levy fund. Then they added C, contrary to the Constitution, disbursed directly to suppliers where the loan is a government-to-government loan and is raised for the purpose of financing goods and services provided by a supplier outside Kenya. Or D, in the case of an external loan or external government security applied in part to pay at closing pre-negotiated expenses associated solely and exhaustively with the borrowing, including but not limited to fees, commissions, expenses, lenders, financial arrangers, managers, book runners, fiscal agents, trustees, paying agents, exchange and information agents, syndicated agents, council, clearing systems, listing agents, stock exchanges, rating agencies, and other expenses of a similar nature arising from an external loan or external government security. Those are unconstitutional amendments that were done by Parliament in 2014. You are now proceeding in a direction that has already been, in our view, abused, has been signs of clear impunity, and you're now amending the act to further give that abuse leeway. Our view is that you must not allow it. Parliament must be the supreme watchdog of the people. You must check the executive. You must reject those amendments in totality. In totality, especially in view of the abuse that you have seen in the past. We close.
Okay, thank you very much, Jimmy. I think your concluding remarks now bring us to what we wanted to hear. That your proposal is we reject the amendments. There are actually about 6 of them. From what I've picked from you, is the 6 of them, we say no to them. But I can hear you talk, and more so is the one which is allowing Treasury to even breach the ceilings and then come to explain. That's what I'm picking from you.
Just a clarification. Not breach the ceilings. I don't know what the ceilings are. The ceilings are the appropriations bill. I hope not debt ceilings as you put them, as you pass in Parliament. The ceiling here is that the law has said you can only take debt for development. And debt development is stipulated in the appropriations bill development, where each schedule of any development we're doing in this country is put together with our taxes and our borrowing. The project, the ministry, our taxes and our borrowing. The ceiling over the last 10 years has been 2 trillion. But the ceiling you have passed in Parliament as debt sustainability ceiling, even in the last Parliament, was 10 trillion. So I hope we are correct about which ceiling.
And for me, I think basically your conclusion is clear and we are happy. Personally, I'm happy. My colleagues will be saying it. But your earlier figures, you know, every year, the Auditor General, which is an independent institution given the mandate by the Constitution to audit all government expenditure, including the CFS expenditures, has been doing reports every year. I don't know whether your report has benefited from the input, because you also need to pick that and look at whether the issues you are raising are being raised by the Auditor General. Parliament
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so that is important. But generally, colleagues, the floor is now open. When you guys to now, if you have any issues, you can raise them.
Yes, Chair. Let me go first. Then I allow Makila. Chair, I want to appreciate the effort by our brother, Mr. Wanjigi, to attempt, maybe in his own way, to explain to this committee where our country is in his words and in his opinion, and of course his input in as far as the amendments we are canvassing today are concerned. And Chairman, you'll appreciate the reason as to why I asked from the word book the credibility of the data that has been presented to us. Because indeed, it will be very difficult, if you allow me, Chairman, to admit this data as part of what we've canvassed today. When we'll be asked at the end of the day, the sum total of the work that we've done today, it will be difficult to give this presentation, because it is lacking, not in content. The content is there, but it cannot be corroborated. Simply because the source of this data is not stated. All we know is that it is an investigative forensic report. I have never seen this I've never seen these figures in the life of my engagement with the National Treasury, the Director of Budget, the Office of the Controller of Budget, Auditor General. I have never come across these figures. If this be the case, then I believe if it's not just for sensational reason, then we are stuck in some darkness. And from where I sit, Mr. Jimmy, I think it would be so right if this is authentic that you give us the source so that then we can corroborate. Otherwise, we'll only take it as your word, and which would be so unfortunate for this committee because we have sat just to listen to you. But on the issue of the amendment at hand, we hear your input, and of course I know through the chair he'll be able to take into consideration your sentiments. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Makla.
Thank you, Chairman. I think when Wanjigi, you were invited to address the amendment of the current amendment of the PFM Act as published on the 6 areas that needed to be amended. And I have heard you towards the tail end really saying the amendment of 2014 actually gave a lot of loophole, and therefore we should not allow the current amendment. And your proposal and your team is reject all, based on your research. That was what you were invited to do here. To the extent of the forensic investigations that you've done, I do not know between Minor Wanjigi and National Treasury who is mad between the two. But something that we also need to do is, when we met sometime National Treasury, they were able to state the projects in which the money was borrowed to finance. And we're able to appreciate that this is a debt that was maturing now, and so on and so forth, and we were able to get all, if it was roads, if it was water, we were able to get all of them from our National Treasury. Today, one Minor Wanjigi, former presidential candidate, Jimi Wanjigi, has come up with other outrageous figures, and I agree with Tuku that between the two of you now, we need National Treasury to do forensic again investigations on your scientific on your investigation, so that we get the truth for the country. You know, this country must not live on a lie on either side. We must find the truth one day. But for our side, and for this purpose of this particular session, I think you made your point by saying don't amend it again, but it support the views of many Kenyans. And actually, some of the things that you have been able to bring on board was not here, because this committee was not in force in 2014-2015 financial year. So, in our understanding, we've had you. We shall now ask the other person to be heard, so that we now find between your part and the government who is right. But from our part, whom we have been in finance and budget and even this committee, we have been able to see through all the projects that were funded through the debt, and we are able to appreciate that there is a problem in country, and we cannot run away from it. For your end, we've had it.
Chairman, if you don't mind, because those are similar questions, if I could just address it.
They might be the only two questions, so I'm just finding out whether there's anybody else.
Chair, I want to make a comment.
Yes, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Wanjigi. There's something that has come out of this presentation, Chair, and maybe in all these arguments we're missing it, and that is, in a very idealistic situation, we don't need to borrow, because what we borrow is equivalent to what we pay every year. And if you look at the tabulation that is given us from 2014 to last year, we borrow and pay the same amount. We're in a vicious cycle. So I think what we should be thinking of as a country is how to get out of this cycle. And I think we should not dismiss, or we should not take lightly what Mr. Wanjigi has tried to. There's one slide that he has really shown what we borrowed, what we paid in principal, what we borrowed in interest, and then you realize actually we got ourselves into this mess.
Anyway, maybe
You see,
now,
when I
very, very summarized way.
very good from Shimba. Thank you very much. Let me assure you, what we have presented here are facts according to what is printed. So what I would suggest we do, and I would love, because you know they say the truth sets you free.
Yes.
Before you touch anything, see, you establish the truth.
Yes.
Establish the truth before you do anything as a committee. And I would pray that you call the National Treasury that has so-called put those figures for you and articulated projects, Wahapa, and invite me again at the same time. And we spend a day going through every single line. And at the end of it, I can assure you, you will know who is telling the truth. You will know who is telling the truth. So what I'm saying, I am prepared to defend this before the Treasury. Up until now, they have never made a comment, and we've been talking for a very long time. Not uttered a word, nobody has disputed any figure we have put here, because these are their figures. These are their figures. We didn't create them from somewhere. These are their figures. They come from appropriations bills approved by yourselves. So they are there. Look at every year. Please, Mheshimiwa Duku, just look at every year. If you think I'm wrong, go to the appropriations. They're there. They're public documents. You see the appropriation, utaona the figure. The figure. Right. Now, what I'm saying, and please get me. What Treasury is doing is nothing to do with what you are doing.
Jimmy, just a small issue. Now that this is a forensic investigation, you must tell us then where this money went to, because there is that trace.
You see, I have already articulated one aspect with the domestic debt. We didn't have to take it. We had the revenue. But you can see the interest that has accumulated over the last 10 years. 2.9 trillion. Follow that money. Who are the beneficiaries? I've given you one. We are coming to the next. I said I have got part 3. This is part 2. I'll come to part 3.
Chairman.
I'll come to part 3. But as of now, we have touched part 2. And part 2 is telling you there is a vicious cycle here called domestic debt. You don't approve it in law for taking for any development. And I can assure you, Mheshimiwa, there is nowhere in the appropriations where domestic debt is funding a project.
Thank you.
If Treasury came and told you that is a lie. So why are they taking this money? And you've got enough money to pay salaries?
Chairman.
You have enough money to pay back debt? Why are they taking this domestic debt? For what reason? The banks are enjoying tremendous profits. So look at it this way, Mr. Chairman. They take our money as banks, customers. It's not their money. They put it into treasury bills and bonds. Right? They earn huge interest, profits, of which our taxes go back to pay. And you and I and everybody are disenfranchised from loans, and you now come to raise our taxes to pay back those loans that have been taken on our money. This is what you call a Ponzi scheme, anywhere in the world. It's a pyramid scheme.
Chairman, what Jimi Wanjigi has presented is a matter of investigation to find the truth. It will not be part of this amendment of this bill. And one just straight question to Wanjigi is, this is our country, me and you. We have no other country, it is ours. And at the moment, as it is, before this investigation of the truth between you and the National Treasury, we are pretty here. We've exhausted, we have about 200 billion to exhaust our debt limit. What solution? This is your country, this is your country, like you. What solution do you have for Kenya? What solution do you have so that we can sustain ourselves? Positive solution.
Kenya is our country indeed, Mheshimiwa, I agree with you. I have 3. There are 3 solutions. Because if we have reached over 70% of our debt going towards funding, of our revenues going to fund debt, it's unsustainable. We have 3. And this is what anybody, any country in the world does. Number 1 is 6 to reschedule. 6 to reschedule. Because this financial year coming, you're going to pay 1.7 trillion Not 1.4, 1.7 trillion, 6.8, almost 1.7, at current exchange rate. If the exchange rate changes, it's going to be a different figure. That is going out to things this parliament has not approved. So you reschedule. Now we have a problem with rescheduling because you have 3 pockets of debt. You have Paris Club, you have the Chinese, and you have the London Club where you have the Eurobonds. And that debt, Simchezo, the Eurobond debts, which are totaling about 900 billion, sorry Chairman, please indulge me, which are totaling about 900 billion, have one line, if you look at them, that says at the bottom, a very loan agreement, if this country seeks to reschedule, their debt must be paid first. So we need to find 900 billion to pay them before anybody sits down. So we have a problem with rescheduling. The next is to do what Ghana did, option 2. Ghana went out and they said, we can't pay anymore. Let us exchange our debt. So it took bondholders, for example, the domestic debt, and said, if you have $1 million shillings, bring your bond at the bank, you take what is called a haircut. So you now take 30% off, so it becomes 700,000 shillings. And we are not paying interest for the next 3 years. But in 3 years, come back, we give you at 5% interest. That is called debt distress exchange. So far, it has hurt the Ghanaian economy, but it has given them life. They have so far saved about $5 billion in payments towards debts this year. They had big problems. Number 3 is a proper forensic audit, which is the one I'm hoping you'll call us to debate with the Treasury here. And in that one, you will find this country owes nobody any money. We have actually a credit. And on that, we are calling what is called odious debt. For those who took it, let them find their way of doing it, but if it is unlawful, it is up to them. It is not up to the sovereign will of the people of Kenya. Those are the 3.
Okay, thank you very much, Jimi Wanjigi. We want to agree with you. As you can see, the figures you have pushed forward to us, we have seen them in the past, and I agree with you. The way forward is to allow now the arms of government, which are really in charge of this particular area, to take over. So I'd like your final comment, forensic audit. So what I want to encourage you is possibly put your papers in order so that when that time comes, the Auditor General can also benefit from your input, because actually that's what we are going to recommend. So that it doesn't appear like we are brushing you off, because you have done your writing. Lucky enough, it's whether it's luck or unluck or bad luck. Unfortunately, I was in Parliament in 2014. Since that time, I've been in Parliament, so I have a bit of more information in terms of how we have approved all these things. But that's a topic for another day. But the best way forward, forensic audit of our debt stock.
Chairman, if I may just clarify, my request was that you do a forensic audit of what they present to you, together with what we have, side by side, because we have done, and it has cost us, some of us. Moshe Maduku, I think you asked who funded it. I funded it. It was in preparation for a presidential bid, so I funded it, and I can assure you that yes, unajua ukitafuta kazi, you must know what you are finding there. Otherwise, unapotea. You start making promises you cannot honor. Correct? So we must understand what is there. Now we went and we found out what was there, and we funded this extensively. Now, on the basis of that, because I believe what we are presenting is the first forensic, not audit, accounting audit of Auditor General. Ours is a forensic audit. In other words, side by side with the law and practice and what was done. Side by side. Call us together. Call us together. We will come and we will defend every single line item you have seen there.
We are in agreement about it, Jimmy. You know what we are saying is we have been interacting with the Auditor General, and actually now they have a special unit to look at public debt. They've been trained on all that. So we really want to agree that I want to conclude this meeting. We agree with you that we need to look into further details what you have presented. But don't sit down. I want to thank you and your team for the presentation. Maduka, I wish we could conclude this matter, please. Just allow me to conclude this matter. So we want to assure you that your input into this committee, we consider it, and we really want to appreciate what you've done to make this presentation. It has taken you money, it has taken you time, so we don't want to take it for granted. So on behalf of my colleagues, we want to wish you well and thank you for the presentation. And we've listened to you, we have heard you loudly that you want this bill rejected in totality. We'll be considering alongside other presentation by other groupings and our own input. And I want to assure Kenyans that we give them the best for what is best for the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So, members, now we want to usher out Jimi Wanjigi, and then we can do final. Final. So Daudi will request you to speak our wageni, then we do an in-house, and then we close the session. So thank you very much.
No, Jimmy,
watu wa media, tumeshukuru sana.
Are you running in the next election?
And then
how much injury time do we have? How much injury time do we have? Asante sana. God bless you. Thank you.